Hey, it's the Brian and Kendra Show.
Take two.
It's too bad because nobody else gets to know how great this show was before we remembered to,
faulty.
We were just scrimmaging before.
We were scrimmaging. That's right.
Now this is the final four.
Yes.
That was such a good practice run. Like, I feel really confident about the game now.
I felt like we were blazing into it. So much information to cover.
I got to say, though, so people don't know that we had a little malfunction with the memory card of the camera. So we've actually done half the show. Just kidding. It really wasn't that far in. Like, we were really just far enough in for me to know we should have done that differently.
Yep.
But let me just shout out Nathan because, so Nathan had this huge thing this weekend. We're recording right after Easter, so this will actually air a couple of weeks later. But, Nathan and a crew did this huge service at our church, where we have 3 services, and they did all of it together at one location, which admittedly is like my least favorite thing. Like, my heart is still palpitating about all those people. But Nathan is like the rock star at that, and so whenever he has a malfunction, it wasn't because he did anything wrong. It's because something really malfunctioned.
We'll go with that. He's just there to fix it.
Yeah, so anyway, that was quick recovery. Here we are. So game on, guys. Are you ready?
We're ready.
Okay, we have Kevin Cansler, State Farm Insurance, and I'm really, really thankful that you're here because you always have so much really great information. And you don't mind whenever we kind of put you in the hot seat.
Sure.
And we don't do that on purpose. We do that because we hear stuff, we see stuff, and we know that you know what's frustrating to your customers. And so if we can help to educate, maybe the frustrations will be a little bit less, is what I'm hoping.
Absolutely. My goal is just to keep people from being surprised.
Yes, education.
So I'm not saying that everybody gets it, but
right.
Yeah, I'm a customer too, and I'm not always happy about insurance.
Exactly. I think that's a brilliant thing to say.
Yeah.
And we were talking also in the little break part, insurance and real estate are similar in this, that it's not a cookie cutter business. Like what you do with one customer is never going to be identical to the next, to the next, to the next. I mean, every single property is different. And even if you sell the same house with the same loan to maybe not the same buyer, it's still going to have a different circumstance every single time.
That's right.
It just does. And it's the same with the insurance. So I file a claim on my roof today, and then I file a claim in another 20 years. It's not going to look the same.
It may not. I share lots of stories about just claims experiences. And if you have a new experience that I've never had, guess what? You just got added to my story list that I share with everybody else.
That's part of the book.
Yeah, it's part of the book. So,
all right, chapter 37. Let's begin here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to begin because of how timely the show is. That we're entering in, or should technically probably be in, storm season for Northwest Oklahoma. And we talked before, whenever nobody heard us, we talked about how the weather has felt the last few days it really could do something. And it's not doing it here, which is probably something to be thankful for. I really like a good thunderstorm. Let's just be honest. Whenever we get the big hail, I'm like, this is terrifying and exciting. And I love it. And I hate it all at the same time. It's just wonderful.
Yeah. So as it's storm season, what's your phone number, business, and location so they can call and make sure they're covered?
Call now before,
Well, my office is at the corner of 13th and Oklahoma. Address is 1309 13th Street. Phone number 580-256-2216. And my website is agentkevincan.com.
That's a great location.
It's a great website.
Man, it's all great.
Great location. I had a good person find that for me.
Yeah,
you did. You really can. That's fantastic. Okay, so let's start here. Because of the storm season, because of those things. So probably I should begin with talking about how to look at my policy, see what's covered, visit with my insurance agent. That's probably where we should begin. Do you have any tips and tricks on that? One, your agent should be you.
I think it's important. I think it's important just to review policies. Just kind of go over. What coverages do you have? What coverages do you not have? What to expect if there is to be a claim. So I'll give this scenario that maybe you call in a claim from something that happened, last night or maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Mm-hmm. It's you're concerned that you may have some hail damage, or a roofer drove by and they said, hey, you've got hail damage. Mm-hmm. So you call the office, you want to file a claim. We kind of discuss that, what the steps looks like. We tell you what your deductible is. But before we call in a claim, If we're not sure that there's not enough damage to be over your deductible, we'll have you go get an estimate from the roofer of your choice, kind of see what your deductible is compared to the damage, just kind of make sure it's an educated, decision, and then we'll file a claim. Claims adjuster will then try to call you in the next 24, 48 hours, trying to schedule a time to do a roof inspection, whether your roofer's there or not, but they will actually go up on the roof or send somebody to do that and give you an estimate of damage from that claim, from that date of loss. Sometimes people get confused that if they have a roof for 20 years, then they sometimes get to count all of the damage from all of the last 20 years. It's the damage of that date. So, and sometimes it is hard to tell, which hail divot is from which storm.
Right.
But you can tell, if you have a water leak here from rain and you have some fire damage on this part of the roof and you have hail damage on this part of the roof, those all didn't happen the same day.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good information because I think I'm probably in that party. Just thinking, we had little pea-sized hail then, and so maybe there's, I don't know, one or two hailstones that were larger and created one or two divots, and I thought, well, not big of a deal, so I don't call. But then we get a better hail or a bigger hail. I'm not supposed to say better. I cannot help it. A bigger larger size hailstone. Then I call thinking it's going to handle everything, but it's only going to handle the recent.
It's going to handle the hailstorm that caused the most damage, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, interesting. See, I didn't really know that. Okay, so you kind of help a customer then to even decide if they should be filing a claim, is what I'm kind of hearing you say. Am I interpreting you right?
I try not to encourage claims or discourage claims. I try to give them all of the information and let them make that decision because ultimately they make that decision. Now, I can, if they do go to a roofer or they get some damage and it's well below their deductible, I just try to tell them, if a claims adjuster comes out and they come up with the same estimate and it's well below your deductible, you have just filed a claim. It's not necessarily a bad claim, but the more bad claims you make, it could possibly increase your premium or non-renewal. So we just try to make smart claims.
More education. Yeah. Again, very good. It's kind of like you were an educator.
Yeah, it was sometimes. I just transferred from younger people to some not so young people.
Absolutely. He was careful not to say older people.
Wiser people.
That's also challenging.
Yeah. Right?
I'm older than all of us
people.
So,
All right. Okay. Next. So then, keeping in that same kind of situation with a roof, because I'm really focusing on roofs because that's really what we're seeing right now.
This is the
and
time
so we want to be
concerned.
relevant, and we probably need to do another show where we really, because I'll probably run us out of time just on the roof of the house alone.
Yeah.
So we probably have to do another show again soon. So get ready if that happens. But one of the things that is really challenging us right now is first, okay, so we had the huge hailstorm in 2012, and then a couple of days later, we had the tornado in Woodward. And so all of that was really helpful almost in real estate. This is sad to say. This is horrible. I hope nobody yells at me later, because I said this one time to someone, they told me I was an idiot. But I'm right. Unfortunately, when we have these kinds of things happen, we saw roofs all over town being replaced, which was better for us when we're selling a house. If you have a house with a 1-year-old roof, and I have a house, the same house with everything similar, with a 13-year-old roof, your house looks a lot better.
Sure.
It just looks, so if they're side by side, you win. You totally win because of that. It's better for our buyers with their insurances. It's better with their loans. It's better for everything for them if they have that new roof. So now suddenly our roofs really are 12 years old for a large part of our community. And with that, when we're doing our transactions, all of a sudden now we're having the situation where it's almost a standard clause now on an appraiser to say
professional inspection required.
Yes, it's almost standard. And a lot of our inspectors do too, but they usually will have a photograph to back it up. Like we see some wear and tear here, or we see something that appears to be hail damage here, you should have a professional. But with the appraiser, there's not even necessarily a photograph. It's just a new phrase that's being included. And so then, I mean, you can see how this is just creating such a ripple effect in our transactions. So we can't always, I mean, then what do? I guess that's kind of where I want to go with this. We don't necessarily know when that hailstorm was. And for you, you're like, well, I can't tell you when the hailstorm was.
Because I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do we navigate this with you?
So one of the insurance guys, one of the roofer guys said, according to my program, there was a hailstorm here on such and such date
Interesting.
at this GPS location. So Brook Circle had a hailstorm less than a year ago, but Sunny Slope did not.
Oh, that's
They're
incredible.
a block apart. They're a block apart.
There's so much more data out there that we can just Google. Not,
It is.
not me, but
Maybe,
everybody
yes.
can just Google. You
It
can look
was
at weather patterns
So
and weather
impressive.
history.
And that's why he also said on the Brook Circle, we did get a whole new roof. It was and that's a whole nother deal about policies and why you should review your policy. There's all kinds of riders that you could look into. But we can get into that later. But so that one, yeah, he was like, yeah, so the hail was actually, he's like, yeah, storm came from this direction. It was at this velocity. So the hailstorms would have hit these sides. That's why there's no hail damage on these three pieces, but there is hail damage on the rest of this roof. So we really can't cover these three pieces, but since we're at so much percentage, it was so awesome. Like he was so good.
That is
It
just
annoyed me he was so
incredible.
good the last time he was here because he's like, none of this is hail damage. But
Well, it's hard to determine hail prophecy, but we know hail history.
yes,
Because
Right?
it's already happened.
yes, yes.
Man, okay, so like I keep coming back to, I don't even know how to wrap my mind around all of it because I'm thinking about the other things. The other thing that we're seeing is defective shingles.
Yes.
Like there were evidently a significant amount of defective shingles that shingled a ton of
In
roofs
2012.
in Woodward in 2012.
Yep.
That's not an insurance problem, is it?
It's not an insurance problem. That's
Is
a
it-
manufacturer problem.
Man.
And we don't cover manufacturer defects or roof installer defects.
And this is one of those times that like when you say it right now to me and I'm like, well, of course you don't. That makes complete sense. The other part of me is panicked because I know that my roof is a few years old and I'm thinking, well, how do I know if it's a manufacturer defect?
So most of those manufacturers are 10 years. Like they're a 30-year shingle, but that part of them is only 10 years. So now we're 12.
Interesting.
So man, there's a lot of them.
Man.
And 30-year shingles never last
That's
30 years.
No, and I think
Say that again.
Yeah.
30-year shingles never last 30 years.
Yes.
I'm not even being funny, but because so many of our sellers, and this breaks my heart because these are very, some of the ones that I've had this conversation with are very educated, intelligent. I mean, considerably smarter people than I am or ever could be. And I hear them say, but they're 50-year shingles. They're 50-year shingles, 50-year shingles. And I think, right, they are 50-year shingles whenever they're still in the package. Like they're not 50-year shingle
in a controlled
Woodward.
environment, not 117 degrees one day, and then sometimes it can just get down to 40
Right.
degrees within a week. Or I mean, it just changes in Woodward.
And then the wind,
So,
and
and the
then
wind.
the little pea-sized hails that we get all the time that probably never really result in a reasonable claim. I mean, we have all these different things that we have here in our region that make a 50-year shingle laughable, right?
Yeah.
But man, it's hard to explain that when someone is struggling with that at that minute, right? That's why we're doing this right now.
I guess they should be called more of class 4 shingles and leave off the 50-year because
Probably,
it's never going to last
yes.
50 years.
I think you're right. I think that's what we do to help our consumers is to begin to change that terminology for them. We call those class 4 because
They're just
Because
a
we
more
live in Woodward.
durable shingle.
Yes.
take more impact.
Yeah.
oh, I like it. That's probably what we need to do. Okay, so how do we handle those kinds of situations though? Because I'm sure you're running into this.
Well, I mean,
Are you just having to say, "I'm sorry, I can't help you"? See ya.
well, it depends. If
Roof
they come to me, and they say my roofer says I need a new roof, and so I usually will just ask, okay, well, what's going on? What happened? Well, and if they say, well, I don't know, I'm like, well, does your roofer see? Is he saying hail damage, wind damage? And sometimes they just say, I don't know. My roofer just says I need a new roof. And I just tell them, well, do you need a new roof because it's 30 years old, it's curling, it's breaking, all of the granules have fallen off? Is that why? Because if that's the reason, that's normal wear and tear and maintenance.
Right.
That is not covered on a homeowner's hazard insurance policy. That is just home ownership.
It is. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly right there.
It is. Yeah. So, and sometimes there'll be, when claims adjusters come out and they find things that, yes, this area did have hail damage, this part did not. Or sometimes there's not enough roof or attic ventilation. And instead of the hail divots going down, they're blistering and they go up. Well, that's just extreme heat in your attic. And that's just, it's not really a defaultive shingle. It's just maintenance issue that should have had more ventilation in the attic. So
maintenance is a huge part of what happens. Maintenance is part of the issue whenever it comes to somebody thinking that they have a claim and then their claim is denied, I guess is probably the term. I really don't know insurance. It is not my favorite game. I do like it a little bit more than I like taxes.
yeah, that's probably the big number 2.
Sorry. Man, because it's all so very foreign. And about the time you think you've got it figured out, then it seems like something changes, and which is the same in our business. I mean, about the time that we've really got that contract, we could read it to you without looking at it, then the contract changes. It's the same kind of thing. Yeah. There's always, our businesses are ebbing and flowing. And so not a critique in any way, shape, or form. But that's why we use trusted agents. I mean, that's why you're my man, because I know that you and Jake are not going to steer me wrong. Okay, so back to the manufactured defects so you said roof inspection. So some of the things that we would do for maintenance around our home for insurance, I want to talk about maintenance, but that could be a new thing that we add to our list. Do you have, how often would you have your roof inspected? Is that an annual thing? You would maybe
I think there's a lot of these.
Termite?
I think there's a lot of these roofers around right now that are willing to do that. And they don't have to get up and do a full inspection. And they've probably been in your neighborhood and they probably say, yeah, there was a hailstorm. Remember on June 17th, you need to be checking it out. And so I think you're going to see a lot more aggressive roofers in town, and they're probably going to be, because they're starting to see patches of, Brook Circle just got a new roof because of a hailstorm. I bet you the one next door needs to be looked at. And they're probably going to be and then when somebody puts a new roof on, all the neighbors are like, well, they got a new roof. There might be something wrong. So then they call that roofer. So I think you're going to start seeing that sporadically around town. Again, I've had, there's a couple of roofing companies. I've had several of them go out and inspect these roofs. We're going to list some property, and from the ground, they look bad. And so I'm like, hey, you might have your roof checked out. And so they just buzz right over. They don't charge us, and they check them out. Obviously, they want the business, and they'll send us a report that says whatever they think is wrong. They're pretty good. Both of them said, Brook Circle's bad. It would be an insurance claim. There is enough damage. And the other one, a block away, was there's no hail on this roof.
That's so crazy.
It is crazy.
And that one was, but that opposite roof, the other one was no hail damage, but had a bunch of defects.
A lot of problems.
So it's so interesting to think about that. Okay, so we're saying that maybe it'd be a good idea for people to go ahead and begin, homeowners, to start having the roofs inspected every year, every couple of years, something like that.
Yes.
Which would help you in the long run too, because then I know it's coming up, and then it's not that emergency. Oh my gosh, my roof is leaking. And you say, man, I'm really sorry, but
and sometimes they can catch things that are maintenance issues because if it's an asphalt shingle, there's probably not as much maintenance that you can do to kind of repair an asphalt shingle from the elements. But a lot of times there's the caulking around a flashing, or there's if you have a metal roof and the screws are popping up, or the rubber seals are deteriorating. Those are all maintenance issues.
Well, the maintenance of that is far less than
a new roof,
than deferred maintenance, having to re-roof your house because you didn't maintain it properly.
Yeah.
So, which is the same as other things that we would want to do to help to maintain just for roof health itself, keeping our trees trimmed back. That's a big deal that we see frequently all over town. We love our big trees. We really don't have enough of them in Northwest Oklahoma, but we need to keep them trimmed back away from the house.
Away from the house, and I mean, they do add that special touch that, that a lot of homeowners like to have. But when those trees kind of start hanging over the house or getting really close, even if they're not touching it during a storm, enough wind can start, moving that limb back and forth. And eventually it's either going to start just creating a problem spot, or it's just going to start scraping away those shingles. So, yeah.
So trees are a big deal. What else do you see that we want to be aware of?
I would say, a number of types of claims that for as far as maintenance is, just checking, anything that has, caulking or sealing, or even just looking on the inside around your plumbing fixtures, things like that. They just need to be looked at. So sometimes you don't catch it until, there's already water all over the floor.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, so with all this insurance stuff, are there any discounts out there?
Discounts on homeowners insurance?
Yes.
Another company, basically got the term of bundling. So, that's kind of a terminology that everybody has. So I guess if you bundle your automobiles with your home, that would give a discount. Another discount is, we talked a little bit about class 4 or 50-year shingles. If they're on an approved list, meaning they've gone through the testing of Universal Labs and they're approved, they give a nice discount. And the reason they give a discount is the likelihood of any wind or hail damage being a heavier shingle might not have a claim. So then there's the discount because there's not going to be as many claims. So home security discounts, if you have something that's being monitored by somebody else, kind of like Vivint or ADT, or there's about 15 other companies out there. But that's more of just reducing the risk of burglary. So anything that a person can do to reduce the risk of a potential claim, there's going to be a discount connected to it.
Sweet. How about?
So I cannot cook. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
You just disconnect that one smoke alarm.
Yeah.
Does he really support that?
I don't.
You shouldn't have a smoke alarm.
Disconnect the smoke alarm.
You should not have one over your oven. Okay.
Or don't cause smoke.
Yes.
Yeah.
How about riders?
Okay. So
There's like we've talked about a couple of different riders.
There's one I get confused every time.
So
yes,
there's riders or endorsements that you can add on to a homeowner's policy. I probably won't even mention all of them, but one of them that we always add is just called backup of sewer of drain. It's not part of a basic homeowner's policy, but it's just you basically are just adding another type of loss that when your sewer backs up or your drain backs up and causes damage, it probably won't fill a house, but it can cause damage.
Sure.
Another one that's very, that people, they either want it or they don't. It's called home systems protection or service line. It's to protect, it's not for appliances, but it's for things built into the house, wired or plumbed into the house, like air conditioners, furnaces, permanently installed generators, things like that. But again, it's for when they have a mechanical, electrical type breakdown, not things that were already covered by your homeowner's insurance. Because if your air conditioner gets hit by a tornado, lightning, hail, or gets stolen, it's your homeowner's insurance. But it's maybe just that sudden electrical breakdown, not I've been losing Freon for the last 15 years.
Right.
That's more of a maintenance issue. All the way from earthquake endorsement to their cyber attack endorsement, identity theft. There's just lots of other endorsements. A lot of people don't want them. They don't want to pay for them, or they find them in other ways. Like, there's another company out there that does identity theft. Probably that's their specialty.
Sure.
That's who I'd probably go with as well. So.
And then the one we experienced a couple weeks ago was the rider that's, and there's a whole bunch of them. That's what I'm telling people is like, just ask. There's all kinds of things that and you don't think about. So the one we had the other day, the decking was improper. So for them, when they bought their roofing permit, then now they had to redo the decking. And that's another rider that's a bring it back to code rider. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. So on homeowners policy, that one's already built in. It's already part of it.
Okay, cool.
But you're talking about one that was
a rental dwelling.
It was a rental dwelling. That's when you have to add. So,
there you
but
go.
you pay for it.
Yes.
So the other one you pay for it, but you don't really you don't feel like you're paying extra for it because it's all
in the
built
bundle.
into the package.
Yeah, and so that was a cool one that I didn't think about. Is probably very inexpensive to add on if you have rental property. That would help you out. How about replacement costs? So this is another one. So some insurance companies are telling me you can't have replacement costs past 10 years. But then my mother-in-law said she is.
More and more companies are getting to where they just don't even offer replacement costs. So
Right, and you offer that, correct?
we offer it still. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. That's a big deal too, because it's if you're on a budget and you don't have $25,000 laying around to put a new roof on.
Right.
I mean, just for example, this roof the other day as a rental dwelling, the roof was $29,000, insurance paid out $11,000, I think. But the roof was 14 years old, which is 50% life. They had a deductible. They didn't have the rider for the deal. So there's a whole lot of things. And they weren't upset, and they didn't love it, but it was part of the maintenance issue as well. And so, if I would make sure you ask if you are in a budget minded, make sure you can get something close to replacement cost or at least a lower deductible. Just work on it. If not, start a savings account.
Yeah.
Because this stuff, everything's getting way more expensive. And as the prices of material goes up, so will your insurance because it just costs more to replace it. And insurance is a shared expense.
It is. And that's what you just said. This is why we need to make sure we have those annual evaluations with our insurance agent, that we need to go in and sit down and look at our policies, because my circumstances today might be completely different than they were a year ago or 5 years ago when I took my policy. And again, going back to what we saw with the tornado, we saw so many customers who unfortunately hadn't been having those meetings, and then their coverage just wasn't quite sufficient for their needs with the replacement cost of their home.
Yeah.
Man, if I insured my home at $80,000, but today it's worth $120,000, I'm probably in trouble.
Right.
So
Right.
we want to pay attention. So we really appreciate you. Do you have any other little tip or trick you just want to throw out there for us to pay attention to, or
I just think
remind us?
it's really important just to stay in contact with your agent, just trying to make sure things are where they need to be. So
He's saying that because I haven't opened the email that says, Kendra, we need to review your policy.
yeah. It's okay. He doesn't do it very often.
I don't either.
But we are going to.
Not in a formal way. He does a lot of, we do a
Yes,
lot
he
of
does.
texting, but maybe not in a
Yes.
formal meeting way. But
Right.
No.
So,
Well, I'll get scheduled soon. Go ahead and give us your
Okay.
number again.
all right. It's area code 580-256-2216.
Awesome. All right. We really appreciate everyone joining us today. And we appreciate you, Kevin Cansler with State Farm
It's always
Insurance.
a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good stuff. All right. I don't know how we end the show.
Yep. Hey, this is Brian Cook, 580-334-2303.
And I'm Kendra Brown, 580-216-0090.
Thanks for listening.
See you later.